At the end of this video, you'll be able to answer the question, how do you solve a quadratic equation by graphing? Here's the information from the previous video, and I want you to recall this information that you'll need to help you solve a quadratic equation by graphing. The axis of symmetry formula you'll have to have memorized. You'll need to know what a vertex is and how to get it from a quadratic equation. Don't forget about standard form and the difference between that and related form. And also know that we will use related form when we're graphing. These steps should look very familiar. Steps 1 and through 3 are the same steps as graphing a quadratic equation. But these are the steps for solving a quadratic equation by graphing. So before you begin any step, you must make sure the function's in related form. That is where you have a y instead of a 0. You need to first find the axis, symmetry, and vertex, then plot on a coordinate plane. Same thing as graphing steps. Make a table of values using x values to the left and to the right of the vertex. Same steps as graphing. Plot points and connect them with a smooth curve to form a parabola. Same steps as graphing again. But here is the step that is different than the steps from the graphing. You need to locate and estimate the zeros. So the two graphs that we did in the previous video, we're not going to use those two graphs to help us locate the video. Or excuse me, not the video. That's funny. Locate these zeros. So all of this works to look very familiar to you. Here we used, we first, and I'll go through the steps again. We first found the axis of symmetry. Then we plugged it in once we got the x value and we found our vertex. Then you found 2 points that were x values that were less than 2 and greater than 2. Plugged those in and found our values, but we used symmetry to help us with the two other values. And then we plotted all points, including the vertex and the axis of symmetry. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use this to help us locate the zeros and actually solve the quadratic. So graphing the quadratic is a process in its own, but to solve it by using graphing, you then graph it and locate the zeros, and the zeros are when it crosses the x-axis. So here and here, and this quadratic has 2. So our zeros, and we're just going to kind of estimate, our zeros look like it could be at -2, 0, and the other point looks like it could be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 0. Now to check it, we would plug in these x points or these x values in for x in the quadratic equation that was given to us. But we're just estimating, and as you can see, graphing sometimes is not the best method because you have to estimate the solutions. But I will teach you next week some more concrete methods to get your zeros from a quadratic equation. Once again, this graph should look very familiar as well, and I'll go through the steps with you. We had to change that a value because I wanted the axis of symmetry to be a whole number. So we had the answer, the x answer, we plugged that in for x in the quadratic equation, and we got -1 as our vertex. Then we plugged that, then we plotted that point, and we found two values less than and greater than -1. And we plugged those in and used symmetry to help us come with all 4 points. We then plotted all 4 points on the graph. And now we're going to be locating our zeros. So here, oops, I want to draw on this. Here's 1 0 and here is the other 0. So it looks like we have zeros at, let's look at the first one. It looks like it's almost 0 0. So I'm just going to plug that in and see. It's almost 0 0, but not exact. No, it can't be 0 0. So let's erase that. That's a bad estimation. Okay, so let's think. It looks like, we'll say it's a fraction. So let's say it's -1/2 and 0. And then the other one, that looks like a fraction as well. It looks like -1.5 or 1.5 and 0. Okay, there we go. Normally you want to give your answers either in decimals or in fractions, but I mixed it up a little bit. So here are zeros. We used estimation to come up with those, and if we wanted to check to make sure they were zeros, we could plug them in, but we won't do all of that. We are just estimating and trying to come up with the best possible solution for our quadratic equation. Okay, bring your questions to class, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Just want to give a shout out to my new nephew, Amir. Isn't he so cute? Little cheeks right there. Thought I'd share a picture with you guys where I've been for the past 2 days. All right, see you in class.